East Austin Street and 204 North Elk Street. So we'll start with a presentation by the applicant. So which one of y'all are going to be making the presentation? Or which?
We need to go into public hearing?
No, we're not doing that this
Oh,
week.
we're not?
We're going to do that as the third item. Which one of y'all wants to? Yeah, y'all will come up to the microphone with that presentation.
So, can I give each of you a map? Just
Sure.
So, my name is Anna Wynne Smith. I'm a realtor in Fredericksburg and also a resident. And I represent the owner of 204 North Elk Street. And I'm sure that I speak for all the owners on this particular block who currently reside on their premises within this R1 zoned area. For some reason, East Austin Street and North Elk have become a go-to detour for traffic to avoid the Main Street Llano traffic intersection. I spent an hour at the property a few weeks ago on a random Tuesday morning, and not 1 minute went by without a minimum of 7 cars passing the houses on Elk in both directions. One can drive north on Elk on any day during the week, and at some stages during the day, there will be a line of cars blocking the intersection in pursuit of reaching the traffic light on Main Street. This area is as busy as any commercially active area of downtown Fredericksburg. 204 North Elk is currently listed for sale, and all the buyer objections are just as expected. No one wishes to reside there because of the incredibly busy street and the current surrounding use of properties, especially the noise from the reenactments that occur directly across the street at the Nimitz. This property, which was built by the current owners 25 years ago, is unsellable, for want of a better word, as an R1 single-family residential property. There is definitely no scope for kids to ride their bicycles or play safely on this particular street. I've circulated a map of these blocks for your reference, which shows the 5 STR properties abutting 204 North Elk, the commercial use directly across the street related to the Admiral Nimitz Foundation and their public facilities, along with the CBD zoning around Town Creek on Austin Street. 204 North Elk does not qualify for a CUP for an STR unoccupied in an R1 zone. It does abut more than 2 STR properties, but it does not meet the 75% requirement as per section 3.100. Therefore, it does not qualify for a CUP, as both items need to be met, not just one. There is a strong case here for the change to R2 zoning, which will provide a few more options for the use of this property. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thanks, Anna. If anyone else in your group want to make a presentation also?
Hi, guys. I've lived here for 24 years now. I've lived in this house since 2005. For the last 8 years, it's been almost impossible to be in my house on weekends. So for a year and a half, I would go to the Cunningham's house on Travis and spend weekends there when their house was for sale. It's impossible to sleep. Not only, well, it was Clayton's house next door, but now, since they have Jessica has it now, it's not a problem. The problem is Main Street. The problem is the property across the street from my house having huge parties and weddings every single weekend. It's not a neighborhood. I have no neighbors. It's me and one woman behind me. That's it. It is not a neighborhood. I know, Tom, you said it was a neighborhood. It's not. You cannot make this a neighborhood anymore. It's over. It's done. I'm being pushed out of my house, and I've put up with a lot living there. It has been really, really difficult. My daughter will not come see me. She will not visit because of the noise level. So she won't come to Fredericksburg, period, because of the bachelorette parties, because of the times that she stayed with me and couldn't sleep at night on weekends. And I mean, I've done a lot too for this town. I've brought a lot of tourism here. I've donated to everything with all my restaurants. I really wanted to put a bakery coffee shop in that building in my house, but that's not going to happen because it's not commercial. I mean, I would love to turn it into a bakery, but you know, at least I know that this is not R1 and it should not be zoned R1. The Nimitz traffic alone every single weekend is beyond belief. I mean, I don't know if you guys go on Huston Street. People park on both sides of the street. It's constant traffic. They constantly try to talk to me. Some lady yesterday wanted to know what the trees were. I said, I don't know. I don't have time to talk to the tourist walking to the Nimitz. And it's tons, it's hundreds. And the Nimitz opposed us last hearing, which I don't understand, but I guess it was in support of Kathy Harrison, thinking someone's gonna build a 3-story structure on my lot. But at this point, I don't even know if I'm selling. I have no idea. But I know that I can't live there. I will have to either rent it out or do something with it, but I cannot live there as a resident. No one could. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Then we'll go to item 2, staff report.
Thank you, Anna and Rebecca. Okay, so in summary, the applicant is requesting the change in land use from low-density residential to medium-density residential, and to change the zoning from R1 single-family residential to R2 mixed residential for 7 lots. This change would allow for the properties to operate as STR unoccupied, 3 of which already do so, but would not allow them to operate as STR facilities. The background: a group of owners had previously requested commercial zoning, which was denied at the May 2023 Planning and Zoning meeting. Feedback from P&Z along with staff was to include the entire block face and change the request to R2 zoning to create a transition zone from the CBD zoning across the street to the south and R1 zoning to the north. Six of the seven subject properties have frontage on East Austin, plus 1 property fronting North Elk. 2 operate as short-term rentals, both 412 and 414 East Austin. The zoning to the north, east, and west is R1, and across East Austin Street to the south, the block is zoned CBD. The historic district boundary stops at North Washington and does not cover this area. The commercial uses across the street from the subject tracts include the inn above Town Creek and Winchester Lodge. These properties are also located within the National. These properties are also located between the National Museum of the Pacific War and the reenactment area of the museum. There are a total of 13 R1 properties located within 200 feet, and 6 of those are operating as short-term rentals. The rest are residences or second homes. As of June 30th, 1 letter in opposition was presented, and no others have been received. Staff's recommendation: this block of East Austin has a high volume of vehicular and pedestrian traffic. R2 zoning allows up to 28 feet in height and requires a 25-foot rear setback from multi-story development if abutting residential zoning. which would be the case in this situation. The setback requirements and principal permitted uses allowed in R2 would be harmonious with the existing residential developments to the north. Staff recommends approval of the request, the land use and zoning changes as presented. I will note the updated map that was passed out documents the six short-term rentals that are operating. The one in the packet just identified 5.
Thank you. All right. I will now entertain a motion to open the public hearing. A motion by Jim,
Second.
second by Tom. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Is there anyone else here who would like to make any comments on this application? And I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
A motion by Tom.
Second.
And a second by Polly. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion carries. Yes, sir.
Protest over 407, 411. That's actually just over 411.
Correct.
So there's only one letter.
Yes, sir.
And was that letter of protest from when they were asking for C1.5, or is that a protest against R2?
It was a protest for R2.
I don't think
We never got a focus.
was it a carryover from the other one?
No, sir. It was a protest specifically for R2. The applicant, or not the applicant, the property owner's concern was access. There's an alley in the back, and that was their protest.
The alley cut all the way through.
I think it stops at 413. Is that correct?
And that is an easement. The owner may speak.
Sorry, the alley ends at my gate of 12, only because her policy as far as access goes, a vehicle could not travel past the corner of her policy or her project policy. Section 2.
Thank you.
Is that a city dedicated alley? Or it belongs piecemeal to everybody that's in the block?
That's my understanding.
Because
Any other comments or questions?
I move we approve as presented.
Motion by Polly. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second. Do I have any other discussion?
I request a voice vote on this.
Excuse me?
Voice vote.
All right.
Voice vote. I'll make I guess we're going to discuss. I've got to make one statement. I think Town Creek, the staff has recommended that R2 would be harmonious with existing residential developments to the north. It would be harmonious if there was a necessity for an R2 transition zone. My contention is that there's no reason for an R2 transition zone because the creek is acting as a natural transition zone. I believe that Town Creek acts as a transition zone. And to limit higher density to this adjacent property. The voters spoke in 2022 concerning their views on the conversion of R1 residential property into R2 residential property. This commission turned down requests 2 blocks north of this to transition to change an R1 piece of property at the corner that on the eastern side of Elk Street between Schubert Street and Travis Street from R1 to R2 because it abutted R2. I think we need to be mindful that if these pieces of property are changed to R2, what that does is it opens up all the pieces of property that are currently on Schubert Street. They would be adjacent now to R2, and they would have the ability to come and say, we want R2 also. In this area, we already have 46% STRs. It's busy. There are a lot of areas in town that are very busy because of traffic. Traffic is like water. It finds it's the easiest way to go. And unfortunately, because of Main Street being busy, they found Austin Street and Travis Street. But I'm not sure that should be driving the decisions that we make concerning zoning. Thank you.
Call for the vote.
Jim Giroux. Daryl Whitworth.
Aye.
Jeff Lawrence.
Yes.
Cindy Scroggins.
Yes.
Tom Musselman.
No.
Holly Rickert.
Yes.
Tim Dooley.
No.
Steve Thomas.
Yes.
Janice Menking.
Yes. All right, motion carries. And this will go to city council. Next, what's that? I thought you felt stop. Yeah, I'm sorry.
July 18th.
July 8th. All right. Thank you. All right. Then let's go to item number 5. 5A, consider site plan 2307. Site plan and entry corridor review for STR facility complex that includes a tasting room and office use for property located at 715 South Washington. You're up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brandon Weinheimer with SKT Architects. Unfortunately, the owner, Kim Irwin, is unable to attend due to personal matters this evening. So you have me here this evening. I want to start out by saying I know STR facilities units are a very controversial topic these days, as we all know. But I would like to think that this development in particular would not be one of those controversial topics. In my personal and professional opinion, I think that a facility of this nature is in the appropriate location. C2 zoning, it's surrounded by C2 zoning. It is located on a major artery coming in and out of town, where this traffic generated by it is not filtering into the surrounding residential areas or streets. There are hotels, similar uses north and south of this property. You got the Comfort Inn and Wine Country Hotel, I think it's called. It was the Motel 6. And we're making every effort to be sensitive on this development to kind of seclude and conceal these units behind commercial property that's fronting the highway, using that building for office use primarily. She does have a small area in the back of the building that is for wine tasting. Now, it's my understanding that this is not this is not by any means a fully functioning bar. It is just a venue to invite wineries and vendors of those wineries to come and do an occasional tasting as an amenity for this facility. It is not a fully functioning bar. It is not a fully functioning, not a continuously operating wine tasting venue. So, happy to answer any questions you have about the development after Anna's summary.
All right. Shelby, you gonna make a summary? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon, for your presentation. As Brandon mentioned, the property in question is proposing an STR facility that consists of 7 efficiency units and 1 one-bedroom unit for a total of 8 short-term rentals. The development would also include approximately 1,800 square feet of professional office space and 1,300 square feet of cocktail lounge or tasting room space. The property in question is a little over an acre, and it's zoned C2. The building coverage that's proposed is 18%, with an allowed maximum of 75%. In addition, the impervious cover proposed is 59%, with a maximum allowed of 80%. The height of the development is 1 story, with a maximum allowed of 3, and parking is sufficient. We broke down the parking calculations for you in the staff brief. Signage is proposed on the office building only. No monument signage or integrated business signage is proposed, so the assumption is what you see on the renderings will be an accurate representation of the requested signage. And the access will require a TxDOT approved driveway. The landscaping that's proposed will need to go through a full landscape review process. And as far as the entry corridor renderings, we have these here in front of you. And based on staff's review, we find that the property is compliant with the requirements, with the requirement for some additional landscaping that will be addressed as part of the landscaping plan. This is an aerial view of the site that shows the developments of the short-term rentals to the back of the property, with the office building, tasting room, and a courtyard to the front. The design is done in such a way that it depicts the commercial uses to the front with the office building and the tasting room. And they've provided a stucco wall that is in front of the proposed short-term rental units to the back, as well as the parking, which will be located between the short-term rental units, for the short-term rental units, with some additional parking proposed on the side of the commercial uses that front along the highway. With this in mind, the proposed use of the property as an STR facility, tasting room, and an office is appropriate given the surrounded uses and existing zoning. The uses to the south include a vacant lot and a hotel with a mix of office uses to the north. The rear property line to the east abuts a warehouse office facility, and to the west, across Highway 87 South, is the Alon Station. Staff recommends approval of the site plan with some conditions that include an approved final plat, an addressing plan, a landscape plan, civil construction plans, and a TxDOT driveway permit.
Thank you, Shelby. Questions, comments?
Yes, sir.
It's a tasting room. Yeah. And this is next door to Enderlin Distributing Company, for those people who remember Enderlin Distributing. And among other things.
Any other comments or questions?
I make a motion that we approve.
A motion by Thomas, second by Holly. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good job.
Appreciate it.
It's amazing what happens when you're not in R1.
Thank you,
All right.
Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon. Let's, did we have any comments submitted?
Not for that one, no ma'am.
Okay, for anything, okay. All right, let's look at the approval of the minutes. Item number 3.
Second.
I have a motion by Jim and second by Daryl. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, those are approved. Yeah.
Let's see.
Good job.
All right, let's go to item number 6A, the director's report.
So we wanted to provide you a upcoming agenda preview. There's still some wiggle room on this, but this is what has been submitted so far. So as you can see, tonight was nice and light, but we anticipate August 2nd meeting being pretty heavy. So a rezoning on Shaw Avenue, Shaw Street, Z2310, the Muse, that's the old Seven Hills Resort. So that's a PUD change there, and Friendship Lane condos are anticipated to come back, the ones you saw last month. 608 West Live Oak.
What's 608 West One?
That is the remaining R1 portion of the previously considered zoning request for Ms. Burrier's property that was on the corner of South Milam and West Live Oak, where you did the dual zoning, R1 to the north and C1 to the south.
So this is the plats of the R1 lot now?
No, ma'am, this is the remaining R1 portion on West Live Oak
Oh, okay. To the west.
to the west. Yes,
The
ma'am.
west, just before the creek.
Yes, ma'am, because everything past those two properties is C1.
And then a CUP for Kerr Road Business Park. And then Seiko has submitted a site plan, and Friendship Oaks Phase 2. And Friendship Oaks Phase 2. Sorry, I skipped the 908 East Main. 908 East Main will be
901 East Main is the old Azure Hotel. It has been purchased.
No, that's, it does not. No, further.
Across from Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
That's
And it has,
Deluxe.
it backs up on, is it Franklin? And it, whatever that extension is, I can't remember that side street. Something like that. No, sir. And as it's going through some new ownership, they'd like to make some changes to the property that'll trigger the requirement for the site plan.
So I want everybody to look at that date, because typically the way we usually have the dates, it would have been the 9th instead of the 2nd. So everybody look at that. I just want to bring that to your attention. It's August the 2nd.
That is on the corner of Pica. Well, I guess it's solely on Pica. Pica and Kerr, is that right? Mr. Sitman owns that tract, Sitman Wainwright, and he's interested in developing a business park at that location. It's multiple acres. Yes, sir.
no. That's
It's. You're welcome. And I think the only other thing staff had an interest in discussing regarding the August meeting is, as you can see, it's really heavy. And typically, we haven't scheduled meetings prior to 5:30 in the afternoon. I think this would be a good candidate to start earlier, if that works with your schedules.
Cabernet Grill.
They have happy hour.
They don't take reservations for group parties.
I'm talking about takeout.
Oh.
What's that fee increase?
They do, so they do.
They're the paid people.
There is a difference.
There's a difference. Yeah.
So that,
So, for
To
example,
speed things along, I do not have a conflict on that.
Yeah,
day.
thank you, Polly.
Okay, I don't.
I'll
I'm
start.
okay on that day.
I don't have a conflict either.
Do we want to start earlier? 4:30, 5 o'clock.
You don't have to be.
Yeah. In fact, you should probably stay.
It's very easy. Meeting's good.
Would you be opposed to a 4:30 time?
Be fine with me. I don't know anything.
Earlier.
Not earlier, 4:30.
So my concern is the Muse itself is a very large project. And if you look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zoning items. So the bulk of what we'll be considering,
What's Seco doing? They bring their whole thing back?
they're requesting for a site plan extension. Yes, sir. So we'll look at it again.
That's an hour there, except I don't have.
And then Friendship Lane condos, y'all have seen that, so you're they're aware of the complications there. 608 West Live Oak is both a land use and a zoning change. And then Kerr Road Business Park is also a conditional use permit. So 5 pretty heavy zoning items. So I think if you could start at 4:30.
4:30 is easy.
4:30 is good.
Yeah.
Watch my Judy.
Staff will make that change. Thank you.
We were ignoring that.
I make sure my mic was off.
We are
Yeah.
still recording.
Anything else?
No, ma'am. Aside from
Anything else?
I just wanted to give you an update similar to what we did to City Council previous meeting on some of the developments that you've approved recently. So just a reminder, I know you have requested a nice big map, and I'm working on that. We don't have a full-time GIS person to do map making, and our person that usually does that has recently had a child, so hopefully he'll be out of the office for a few days, tending to his new baby. So we're working on the map, so bear with us, but this is a bit of an update on some recent things you've done. So single-family residential subdivisions, you can see them here by the name, the acreage, the number of units, and kind of the status. And the last, I put in year approved, but I was having to go back and find all those, track those down. So sorry, there's a few missing, but just to give you an idea of how these are. Some have been approved and are sitting on the shelf for a while, and others were approved and started going quickly. Well, these are single families, so let's see. Pica.
Oh,
Pica, it's the long one.
That's-
The one you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speedway. It's Poly Speedway.
Motor
Yeah, Poly Speedway.
so
Can you send
GT, yes, sir. The 70+ lot development.
Okay, so the other question is how about the garden that's on the other side of Windmill Oaks? Is that on your? We approved to the west of Windmill Oaks is Polly's Bowling Alley. Okay, to the east of Windmill Oaks that goes the old Corinus track. Okay, we approved that. That was a garden home development. Right.
I don't know that you've seen that here yet.
Skip Preble.
Skip Preble, yeah. No, it's to the west. It's to the east of. It's to the east of Windmill Oaks. Harmony Hills is to the west of.
I can send you this, Jeff.
Are you going to send it?
I can send it to you. Yeah.
Harmony Hills is to the west, on the west side of Windmill Oaks, and Mr. Preble's is to the east. That's the area between Windmill Oaks and Green Meadows. Right. Manufactured.
That was just a part. They're not special.
Right. Well, neither is Seco. But I guess they're coming back.
Right. Yeah. So we'll go on with that presentation here at the beginning. Just an example of an R1A subdivision that's been completed. Altstadt. This is 10 acres, 22 lots. They put in the infrastructure, and it's currently on the market.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then multifamily, this includes apartments, duplexes, townhomes, and condominiums. You'll note most of the condominiums, if not all of it, were actually short-term rentals. But we've got 593 currently under construction, 70 recently completed, and about 370 that have been approved but not yet started.
Notice where all the complete ones are.
The Algarita, this is the old TriStar or TRICARE building. The old building itself did receive its CO, so they can start moving into those apartments. The new construction still being finished, so not occupiable yet. But those flyers were going around last week with saying, call now, rent start at $1,000, and those were for efficiencies and one bedrooms. And the 1846 luxury apartments going up on Friendship that everybody's noticed. Those are 3-story. There's 8 new multi-story buildings. And those are bedrooms one bedrooms with about 593 square feet. I've not seen a price on those. But then the 2 bedrooms get up to about 1,100 square feet.
That sounds right.
And then commercial, we've got the middle school campus here. Of course, that's a lot of dirt being pushed around. The immigrants getting close to, ever closer, inching closer. The Albert Hotel, we did get notice that the contractor was no longer involved in the site, so you will see it all chained up, but anticipating a new contractor to be assigned to that permit soon. Let's see. Milam Street, go ahead.
It sure is.
Well, we'll talk to Texas and see what we can do there. I mean, it's still a construction site, it's still dangerous to walk under it, so.
It has been nice to drive down Austin, that block, not that construction. We appreciate that.
Grand Central on Market now has 3 businesses that have their certificates of occupancy. And yeah, so a little bit of a mix of commercial.
And just as a comment, that Milam Street Market, that's turned out to be a pretty nice redevelopment of a building that had been sitting there for quite a while with nothing to do. So that's been
And
real
to your
nice
credit, we created the C 1.5 zoning pretty much for that,
to
capture some of the uses that were needed for that neighborhood. So
Yeah.
I think so far the businesses seem to be doing well. They got their building permit, but I've not seen any
So
activity
that's
yet.
the one next to the hotel on Friendship.
And then some recent short-term rental numbers for you there.
Closed is the permits were closed due to inactivity or issues with the permit. Withdrawn is that the owners voluntarily said, hey, we're not using the property this way. Yes, sir.
There are really only 10 accessory units?
It's important to note that that is defining STR accessory as we have it today under today's ordinance. So we have accessory units that are permitted as non-conforming structures. So this number does not capture those.
And that's quite a few, is it not?
More than 10.
Well, sorry. I was looking for something a tad bit larger.
Unfortunately,
That's all right.
we're
Tell me
working
what
on
the real number
capturing
is.
that
Just like
data,
more.
but because we weren't tracking them that way before and transitioning from software company to software company,
Yeah.
we'll have a better number in the future, but right now, I'm sorry, more than 10.
We did have a demo with the software company last week, and it looks promising. We still don't have a go live date, but we've seen something that's real, that's tailored to us, and staff's, waiting anxiously.
What's the category under the
It could be under review because it's a renewal, or it could be under review because it's a brand new permit. But that's just a category that we have to say those are pending accounts that we're reviewing actively.
Okay, so now what's the difference between under review?
Pending, we haven't touched yet.
Okay,
So
they
they're
apply,
potentially-
they're in the queue,
Yes,
under review as they pass through and you guys are actively.
we're actively reviewing them. So to your point, there's a total of 324 that are pending. 124 of those are being reviewed.
And are most of those renewals?
Yes.
MyGovNow is who we're started with years ago trying to get building permit software, and that kind of got put on hold with transition of directors. And we are working with them on that module too. So essentially, the STR permitting would be a new module. They have a business licensing module that is something that's renews. So that we figured out that that would be a pretty easy conversion for them to take an existing module they had and customize it for our short-term rental. And what we saw looks promising. So continuing follow-up meetings with them to get it live and usable by staff and the public.
Do you have any idea how many new R1 STR permits you have issued since the last ordinance change?
So for clarification, is your question new under the new ordinance?
Under the new ordinance.
Under the new ordinance. I want to say the meeting that we had for the workshop, I don't have my tablet with me. For the workshop, we'd had all STR accessories but one at the time were R1. One STR B&B is R1, and then no condos, no facilities. So we're looking 9, 10, 11 in R1.
So it's a pretty low number.
Oh, yes.
We've dropped that number drastically.
Because the only thing eligible is
Correct.
STR
I
accessory.
wanted to know is
Or
did the
STR B&B.
2022 ordinance change have the effect we were looking for, which was to stop the flow of the R1s?
Right,
And
and
it
it
looks
would.
like it's worked.
It does. I mean, I think it has, and it would continue to do so if we don't change R1 properties into R2.
What month is Jan in reviewing? Because I know she's passed into April. Is she into May's? Y'all know?
I think we're still actively in April.
Still in April. Okay. Getting closer.
We're getting closer.
And then on the STRs, it looks like we will go forward with some level of amendments to the STR ordinance, really to clarify the process. So we're still going to meet with legal and staff internally to look at the draft that was initially presented, to just focus on those enforcement issues that are creating problems for staff and potential litigation. So we'll let City Council set some dates, but probably looking at public hearing for P&Z in like September. So stay tuned. It's not dead and gone. It will be revised so to fix some of the
Take care of
imminent
pretty much that
problems.
single issue of enforcement for a myriad.
It'll be fine tuned. It'll be honed in on exactly what we want to fix
For enforcement
for enforcement.
only.
And yes, to clean that up, not trying to do any further zoning. The other big thing that's out there is the comp plan, and we've got a CPAC comp plan advisory committee meeting the 25th of this month, and really looking for they'll be giving us a lot more clear direction on where this document's going. I created a presentation. I'm just going to hand it out to you guys to review, and I can send it to you. There's a lot of different topics, but essentially I would like for you to start thinking about planning as it's worked for the last 25 years in Fredericksburg, and is that getting us the types of development that we want? And if not, how do we change that? So the comp plan can tell us if we need to update our zoning, if we need to change our land use, if we want more density, thinking about general areas, not streets, and transportation and all those things. So, we have our subdivision ordinance that you're bound by. It dictates site plan review and all these things that you guys do every month. So I'll pass this presentation out, take a look, and then if there's anything that you want me to dive into a little bit more. Holly and I both follow this strong towns movement, if you will. It's kind of the alternative to the general planning practice. It's led by recovering engineers that have kind of seen the error of their ways, right? For decades, we've been planning around the vehicle, and now we live and breathe and die by the vehicle. So kind of turning back to the more traditional planning techniques that actually are what Fredericksburg were built on, right? Live, work, walkable, commercial next to residential, small scale. So that's part of this, and encourage any of you to kind of look at what they have. And then, of course, we are still members of, I'm a member of APA, American Planning Association, and the Texas chapter. So they have a lot of resources as well. So at that level, at the state and federal or national level, the trend is more towards equity, equality, inclusion, realizing that zoning practices for the last 50 years have been exclusive, right? We use zoning to exclude others and include only certain ones. So kind of trying to think forward how we remedy those bad practices and create the communities that are more community-oriented, neighborhood-oriented. And so, yeah, the comp plan is going to fix everything. We just got to get it in there. And then have a budget to adopt and, approve all the parks and all the roads. That's it. So it's real simple. So I'll just pass these out, and I will send it out to you as well. But if there's any particular area that you want to kind of dive into, we can do that at a future meeting.
So Anna, can I make a call on? I highly recommend that you find the website for strongtowns.org. It's strongtownsplural.org. It is a fabulous set of resources. When we went through visioning and then we went through the front end of comp planning, we keep hearing the same thing. How do we retain our small town character? And I would submit that era 1972 urban large-scale subdivision rules and development rules have not served us well in maintaining our small town character. They've allowed us to grow, for sure, but they haven't allowed us the ability to retain our character as we grow. The strong town movement is a lot about how do you make your city and your community financially resilient, which is the number one thing. How do you not become a bankrupt city? And number two, how do you keep those attributes of your town that you had historically that either you're losing or you're in jeopardy of losing? How do you rock things back from a rural perspective to get those elements that you love so much and not get all the elements that you hate so much? So I highly recommend that you get onto their website. I have their book. If somebody wants to borrow it from me, I also gave it to several members of the council. Anna has it. Clinton has it. I think Tom has it.
No,
so
I'd like to read it.
There's the mayor has it. I know we've had discussions, but I'm not saying it's the be all end all to answer everything, but I think it has a lot of advice for us on how we focus in on growth with character as opposed to just.
I'd like to add, throw one other thing out here is for a long time, Jim's been talking. We as a city have been talking about ADUs and the issue of an ADU in R1 all of a sudden makes that piece of property R2 because it's multifamily. So I would be interested in having some research on how can you avoid that happening. I think there's a definite place in our community. We need R1 property, but there's a lot of R1 property that sits itself. It's set up for, a small house for your mother or a small house for a single teacher or someone. So there's got to be a way that out there somewhere where we can have some kind of a zoning category that doesn't convert an R1 into an R2 just because it has an ADU.
We may need an R1.
Well, we could, and
Okay,
it could be, and
yeah.
you could put restrictions on.
Hey, Tom, I think we're outside of our discussion, the
Isn't that-
director's report. Or were you gonna comment on his?
Yeah, he was
Question?
probably going to slap me, but I'm too far away from with the teacher. He could have a yardstick. and
Or
hit
maybe
me.
he was gonna respond to your question. That's fine.
Well, actually, if you want to talk to me afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have anything else on?
That's it.
Okay. Do we need a executive session for anything?
Move the adjourn.
All right, I think we're ready for that. Motion by Tim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Daryl. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we are adjourned.
Did Daryl second the adjourn? Thank you.